It was close to embarrassment, but the final result is all that counts. So it's good to see the seniors headed off in the right way at Kinnick this past Saturday. And of course, now a short week, but an important week for pride in the Big Ten, Iowa and Nebraska. Appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. This is what we do each and every Tuesday, 4 o'clock Central Time, of course, with Corey Brada from the Hawkeye at the Storm. And this has always been a fun one because, unfortunately, college football is basically over in terms of a regular season. But this is the finale that the Big Ten has set up when Nebraska entered the league, and it's turned into, depending on who you talk to, Iowa's biggest rivalry. And we'll pose that question to the chat. Corey, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, I was at the game on Saturday. You're right about almost embarrassment. Kirk said today during his press conference that, it was a hard-fought win. That's a Michigan State team that has been really competitive the last 3 weeks. And I'm like, wait a minute. They lost by 18 against Penn State. And yeah, they tested Minnesota in Minneapolis. But, Kirk's given that team some credit. I mean, here's what I said post-game. And I know I got accused. Of course, I get accused of either being a homer or being a hater. Well, it's one of the two every week.
You can't win.
No, you can't. But this week I said, you know what? They're out of the playoff race. It was senior day. Give them some grace. They won. They won. I mean, it was ugly and they played horribly. I think if you rated the performances 1 through 11 to this point, that would be number 11. I really don't think they've played as badly all year, which is surprising because usually November, maybe some of that's the emotion of senior day. Coach Patterson brought that up post game, but no, I mean, there's no sugarcoating how when they played. They didn't play well, but they did win. They did win. And again, Kyle Spence, who's a good friend of mine, co-hosts the show with me at times. He kind of was ranting when I hopped on because he's just like, it seems like they've regressed. And I'm like, well, are we talking about the long-term future? Or are we talking about this season? Because we're just talking about this season. Who cares? They're not going to be playing for anything big. What they have left is a game at Nebraska and then a bowl game. And you hope they can win that bowl game. It'd probably be against a top 25 team, maybe get off the schneid there, and you move on. You hopefully get to 9-4, and maybe it helps you a little bit with just off-season mojo and recruiting, all that good stuff. So, yeah, it wasn't pretty, but they did win. And I'll say this, great moment for Drew Stevens. Could not be happier for that young man. It's been an up and down couple of years. He has been phenomenal. He's like fourth in the history of Iowa, and is it second or fourth in the history of Iowa football in scoring? He is one of the greatest kickers of all time if you look at numbers at Iowa. And Jacob Gill, phenomenal catch back at the end zone to help Iowa get back into it. And, those are plays the receivers that Iowa don't usually make. Senior day for him. He makes a big play. Shout out to his parents, Melvin and Lisa. Ran into them prior to the game. And the last time I'd seen them was at the Cyhawk game, and couldn't be nicer people. I mean, they're just phenomenal. You can tell he comes from a great family. So really happy for him as a senior to make that play. And then a young guy, Reese Vandersee, makes a great catch over a outstretched cornerback's arms. That was almost like what Dante Moore threw to Iowa here a couple weeks ago to drown the Hawkeyes on that same field. So, hey, big plays were made in big moments, and it was all capped off by an impressive kick by Drew Stevens from 40 plus.
Leave those comments and questions there in the chat. Keep in mind, we got a big evening and night planned here at the Voice of College Football. So as is customary, the Iowa show here for 60 minutes with all of you. Then Corey and I transition to the Big Ten Live show. We've got Steve Dace lined up. Of course, Ohio State, Michigan is the headliner, but the entire weekend in Big Ten football we'll be discussing, taking your calls. And then I'm going to hang around and just make it one big show and take in the college football playoff rankings whenever they come down. ESPN's, their schedule's all over the place. It changes every week. They try to slide it between basketball games or halftime to try to bring in more viewers, I guess. So I don't even know when it shows up this week, but it's usually 7:30, 8 o'clock, something in that range. And really, this is going to be one of the more anticlimactic rankings reveals because it was basically Oregon beat USC, which was expected, but that was the big game in Georgia Tech and Pitt. Those were really the only two games that somewhat altered something. So very little, but of course, a huge weekend coming up this weekend, starting with Thanksgiving. And then, of course, the annual game with Nebraska, noon Eastern time, as it should be on Fox, or 11 a.m. Central time, of course, for all of you on Fox.
It wasn't really a great week as far as competitive games. I had my worst week picking our against the spread picks. I think I was 3-9.
Because
I mean,
you
it
come
was
through in the clutch. This will be a big week for you.
yes,
It
yeah.
was
I
a,
had
it
had
was
a
a yeah, it was a
I
yawner last week.
I
So
was 8-4 the previous week and I'm 3-9 this past week, so that sent me back down to earth. But I had just predicted closer games. I mean, there were a lot of lopsided games where the team that was favored won by a lot, and so ironically enough, not the case with Iowa, Nebraska, or excuse me, Iowa, Michigan State. But I think what's interesting about this Michigan State game as we kind of wrap up our thoughts on it. Jonathan Smith's situation. I mean, that was a team that wasn't playing for bowl eligibility. And, I saw a headline after the game, after another Michigan State loss and a collapse against Iowa. Will Jonathan Smith see next week? He hasn't been fired yet. And I don't know why you would fire him prior to the final game of the year. And what's the point of that? Unless you really think that extra week can get your next candidate a head start. Like, I guess every week does count as we approach the portal window. But do you think he gets retained? Maybe this can be a topic for Big Ten Live.
I think that prior to what we've seen in very recent years, when I say recent years, I mean the fuse has grown so short for these athletic directors and these administrations, for these coaches, that you would think, it used to be a long time ago, you gave a coach full 4 years because his entire roster would be under his control at that point, basically. And it's kind of dwindled down. And now, even you would think a third season, especially since he didn't walk into the best of situations at Michigan State. We all know that the schedules, I don't necessarily know if Michigan State's schedule is more difficult now with the 4 teams coming in from the West, because they at least lose Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, having to face those 3 every year. But I am a bit surprised that they didn't improve this year. I thought Jonathan Smith was an excellent hire. He did extraordinary things at Oregon State. If you look up the metrics, they were one of the worst programs in college football in the last 25 years at the point that he took them over. They were atrocious. And, he walked away from that program 10-3, 8-4 his last 2 years. And I don't know what the issue with there is at Michigan State. I've probably watched less Michigan State football the last 2 years than I have, because they've just not been anything worth watching.
Well, this is my rudimentary and initial take at this situation. I know Aiden Childs has been out, but I wonder, has he fallen prey to misplaced loyalty to Aiden Childs? Childs transfers in with him, and he's not a great passer. I mean, he just isn't. Yeah. So you tell me what they did in the portal this past offseason. If you don't shore up certain positions via the transfer portal in this day and age of college football, you're going to suffer. I mean, I think this is going to be an every year thing for every program that's trying to be middle tier behind the big dogs like Ohio State, Michigan. And that's a position where I'm like, maybe they thought he was really going to progress. They score points. Early in the year when he was healthy, they did score points. So I don't want to say that's all offensive. I don't know the explanation there.
As soon as you asked about the portal, Wisconsin immediately popped into my head. Now, Wisconsin's an interesting case now that they've pulled off 2 surprising wins now in the last 3 or 4 weeks. That's interesting that maybe Luke Fickell, maybe he's going to fool us all in the end and do something. But Wisconsin accomplished virtually nothing in the portal. Same thing with Michigan State. And when you're trying to elevate in this difficult of a conference, you have to. Iowa really is, again, this is another example, such an outlier, that they do not recruit elite, but they recruit what they want. Not, obviously, they would take better athletes if they could get them, but they know what they're looking for. They're not making huge splashes in the portal, but they're starting, I would say, and correct me if I'm wrong, they've made more impactful acquisitions in the portal the last couple cycles. And obviously, they're just so rock solid in what they do and in the teaching of what they do and the execution that they are able to, outplay the Wisconsins and Michigan States of the world consistently week to week, even though they pretty much, from a talent evaluation standpoint, are pretty much the same team as those on the same level, but they're not on the same level once they go hit the field and win 8 or 9 games and come that close to beating some of the best teams in the country.
Yeah, what's interesting about that is as we move forward, because I've heard from all kinds of fans over the past 6 to 8 weeks, they did make some serious headway the last 2 years in the portal at receiver. You think about the acquisitions of Jacob Gill, Sam Phillips, Mark Gronowski, what we thought was going to be at least a stable piece at quarterback in Cade McNamara. So they've tried to address the issues at the major positions, being quarterback and receiver. And so they have improved there. Like we've talked about this, Gronowski's a step up from anything they've had since Nate Stanley. And frankly, the tandem they have right now, and not a tandem, but a group of RVZ, Jacob Gill, even Sam Phillips, they're better than Iowa has been at receiver. The bottom line is they're not good enough still. And so I've heard from a lot of fans over the past couple of weeks about, man, if we just can get an upgrade here and an upgrade here. We've been saying that for a while. They have upgraded. It has not been as substantial as Iowa fans would have hoped for. And but I will say this team this year, the offensive line especially, has made me a little bit more confident, less apprehensive moving forward about Iowa's ability to retain production up front. Because Iowa went through such a spell where they really were below average on the offensive line that you wonder, okay, they have a really good year with Caleb Johnson, but you lose several guys to the draft. Are they going to take a big step back? I mean, they lost Mason Richmond. They lost Connor Colby. They lost Tyler Ellsbury. And what have they done? They've come back with another really good offensive line. It hasn't been as dominant, especially in the run game, but it's been very good. Now you're going to lose Logan Jones and Jennings Dunker. So, then it's Cade Pieper, and I think Bo Stevens might be a senior as well, if I'm not mistaken. So that's a lot of attrition, but I at least have belief that maybe they can recover. So if you can kind of somewhat find a way to stay solid there, there's still hope that they can go find, like Gronowski was not the passer that Iowa fans were hoping he would be. I don't think he ended up being the passer that Iowa hoped he would be, because what we have seen is not the same guy that we saw at South Dakota State. With his legs, yeah, he's been phenomenal. And he's made some big throws at big times. Mark, you saw it down the stretch on Saturday. He made a couple of really nice throws when they had to have him. And he has had a knack for doing that all year. I mean, let's not forget the big play. He made a couple of big plays against Penn State to come back in that. They were down big in that game, I believe. Weren't they down like 2 scores in that game as well?
Yeah.
And same thing Saturday. So they have found, that's another thing that we have not seen. We've not seen Iowa offenses figure out a way to score when they've needed to. They have done that behind Mark Gronowski and this different offensive system. But yeah, they still are looking for upgrades at quarterback. And I heard somebody say the other day, if Iowa could just get like a TJ Lateef in at quarterback, that would be an upgrade. And I don't know that that's true or not. I know he's a really good prospect at a high school. He was a very good prospect at a high school, Mark. He had offers from everywhere.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's the case. My guess is somebody's going to be shopping. Somebody in that program is going to be shopping this next offseason, because now he's been able to debut, and you have Rayola's little brother opting out. And what's the future for Rayola? I don't know. But yeah, the portal's going to be fun again. It's going to be another fun December and January.
Well, it's kind of fun to hear that it sounds like our analysis of Mark Gronowski has kind of come together. We've kind of both come from different directions.
Might I just say this? Well, let me just say this. I was up close and personal Saturday at the game. Like I say, the team played their worst game I've seen him play. He couldn't hit the broadside of a barn Saturday. Now, it gets to a point where it's like, okay, come on, man. Come on, bro. Like this, I've been defending you. I love you. I do. I mean, I really do think he is phenomenal dude, great leader, great legs, had the passing acumen at South Dakota State, but man, it's just been too inconsistent within games, from game to game. No, I think you've been a little harsh at times with how bad he is. Like, I do think there are flashes that maybe you haven't seen because you're not watching every play. But in general, he has not been anything close to consistent enough. We can definitely agree on that. And Saturday was a perfect. They had no business. Michigan State had no business being in that game. They didn't. Not against that Iowa team. They shouldn't have, and they were.
And then I'm also going to have fun this offseason, just like we have in the past with the acquisition of Gronowski, with the acquisition of McNamara the year before, because as I stated a few weeks ago, and you somewhat pushed back, not necessarily argued with me, but you were still in reservation mode of let's look at the quarterback room. But I was, no. Get a quarterback.
Well,
get a quarterback.
Real quick, the reality is, and by the way, they're bringing in the Boise State transfer who was a 4-star. We've talked about him. What's his name? Name escapes me at this point.
Okay, I'll look.
They're bringing him in. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm totally. See, this is why I'm throwing a wrench into your brain right now. He's not a Boise State transfer. He's a Boise State decommit. So he's a high school kid.
We talked about him last week.
Yeah, 2026. And I read something the other day, and I'm not big on like all the different recruiting. Somebody said the other day that he's the highest regarded quarterback that Iowa's had in years. And I'm like, okay, first of all, they've had 4-stars. Like Carson May was a 4-star at one point. Wasn't Spencer Pete? Maybe Spencer Petras wasn't a 4-star at one point. McNamara was a 4-star at one point. Gronowski was definitely a 4-star transfer, if you will. So I don't know what measurements we're using. I think Marco Linez was a 4-star at one point. So where are we? The kid was committed to Boise State. Respectable program, but non-power 5, non-power 4. So we'll see. In true freshman, you don't expect anything. And the only reason I push back on you on the idea that Iowa should go to the portal at quarterback is I'm assuming somebody else will leave. If it's just Gronowski that leaves, you're not going to, unless you push somebody out. I mean, you do have to assume somebody's going to leave, but they're full at quarterback. They have Ryan Fitzpatrick, Ryan Fitzgerald, Pat's son. You have Jimmy Sullivan, who's another year older. You have Hank Brown. You have Jeremy Hecklinski, and then you have the Boise State kid. That's 5. And Jackson Stratton, I'm sorry, 6. What are you doing this for?
Kick one of them to the curb.
Kick one of them to the curb. What does that mean?
This happens all the time now.
Okay.
The transfer portal is not just a player's decision. It is a coach's decision to basically say, this is where you stand. And if I was Kirk, it would be, we're looking for a starting quarterback. We're playing in the Big Ten. We need to get somebody who's capable.
Well, I don't think that's Kirk's way. And I think Kirk, first of all, they were trimming down because they expected these roster limitations to take immediate effect this year. So they did have to do that. But I think the most, and I could be wrong on this, but I think the extent to which you're going to see him trimming the roster down will be, hey, we'll honor your scholarship, but you're not going to play. The problem with saying that to somebody is if they're content being, I don't want to say a nobody because that sounds mean. If they're content just being a part of the program and having their education paid for, they can stay. That doesn't open up a scholarship spot, and it doesn't open up a roster spot. I could be totally off on that. I've not had a conversation personally with Kirk on that, but yeah, I mean, I could see Jackson Stratton leaving, and who knows, maybe Hank Brown leaves. If he feels he's been jumped by Jeremy Hecklinski, maybe he will leave. The portal's especially with quarterbacks, it's so unpredictable. So yes, I think they will have an opportunity to get a quarterback if for no other reason, because they're going to lose somebody in the portal in addition to Mark.
I enjoy the extended weekend of football on Thanksgiving. I know we've got Thursday and Friday games throughout the year, but the full slate on Friday, and more so than anything because it's Iowa, Nebraska, there is a rivalry there. And this is one of these shows that I enjoy, a la Levi versus Corey, the Iowa State dynamic that we get Iowa, Nebraska. We've got Minnie Hunt joining us.
Hi.
You can catch Minnie on our Sunday night show with the Voice of College Football, the Ladies of College Football. Minnie also does a show with TJ over on the Michigan channel on Mondays. I have no idea what that's called.
Michigan Mondays.
Michigan Mondays, I should have guessed. And then you can catch Minnie on Corn Nation on Mondays and Thursdays.
Yep.
You're taking over the internet.
Slowly but surely I am.
Jeez.
And now I'm here with you
But
guys.
we're most proud that she's on the Voice of College Football. And so we asked Minnie to stop by to give the Nebraska take. Minnie, how you doing?
I'm great. I'm excited about this week. We're both
Minnie,
7-4. What can be
Are
better?
you first of all, I haven't watched it, but somebody actually did. Credit to your guys over at Coronation. I think it's John, who Mark you've had on the show before. Somebody sent me a video, and I just haven't had time to look at it. But the thumbnail was "Everybody hates Iowa." I'm like,
That would be
"Come on, man."
John.
So this is a you don't seem like a hateful like you don't. Do you hate Iowa like apparently John hates Iowa?
This week especially.
You hate
No,
hatred?
not quite like John. John has a deep, like it runs through his veins.
Okay.
It is a deep hate.
All
But
right.
this week especially, I have to say, yeah, it just brings it out.
Okay.
It makes me really, I mean, you just get pissed off over the little things, right?
What are the little
that
things?
make up to be big things.
What are the little things?
Oh, just the way Kirk
Just the way-
Ferentz calls a game.
What's
The
how does
little
that
things like that.
Mark, how does that affect Nebraska fans?
It just irritates us.
Being disciplined, not turning the ball over, not committing
Corey, you're so
penalties.
good at turning my words around. I didn't
Not.
say that.
Isn't that what she just
Yeah,
said?
I
these
said
two
the way
teams-
that he calls a game.
Way
And
that
that-
he calls a
have
game.
been the antithesis of each other over the last
That's
decade.
true. That's true.
Nebraska
I
finds
will
a way
say
to lose,
this.
Iowa finds ways to win.
I smile when I reflect on how Nebraska coaches call games. They don't know how to get snappers that snap the ball to their quarterback. They get mad about clapping. They have guys that get into legal trouble. They have a head coach that gets into all kinds of problems and gets shipped.
Wait a second, legal problems. Isn't it Iowa that has
the promised
paid off?
son who
had to
has to go
Wait,
back
no,
to his
no,
old
no,
job
no,
in Florida
no.
and is no longer the
This is
promised
the pot
son.
calling the kettle black
Oh,
here.
by the way,
Corey.
time out real quick. Can I just bring up Matt Rule's podcast that he wants to put himself front and center in front of everybody? Sorry, go ahead, Minnie.
Please.
I think that's hilarious.
Totally Iowa opposite. I will give you that. And bravo, because that is what brings eyes to Nebraska.
Well, yeah, it brings the wrong kind of eyes. I'll
No,
tell you
it
what, the
How
map.
do you figure? That's what recruits want.
Okay, let me just address one thing for a second. And I don't know Matt Rule personally. And Mark, feel free to chime in on this because you and I have never talked about it. Matt Rule launches his podcast. Am I right in saying he launched that right before the season started?
Yeah, I think it was either right before or 2 games after, like, the couple cupcakes.
So I don't need to ask you, like, this. I don't need to ask you, would Kirk Ferentz ever do that? We're not comparing. Yeah. Obviously, we know Kirk would never do that. But you tell me what the point of doing that is, other than I'm going to put my face front and center to be a distraction.
It helps with NIL. It brings eyes to Nebraska, and that's going to help in recruiting and NIL. What's transpired is now we have more companies jumping on board that want to provide NIL opportunities to players. We also have a nationwide view on the Pat McAfee show because Matt Rule put himself out there and did something like this.
So is he on the Pat McAfee show regularly?
Every week, yeah.
See, I always thought Aaron Rodgers was a moron for doing that. I won't go. I'm not going to call Matt Rule a moron, but I always thought Matt
brings eyeballs to Nebraska. You have to think outside of the box.
Well, I mean, he could go. Listen, Minnie, he could go up on the Capitol building naked and wave his arms like this, and I guarantee you would bring eyes on Nebraska. But just because you bring eyes to something and attention to something,
not
like
you're not saying the same thing.
If you say, well,
it's a positive thing. We're talking about
why is
Nebraska
it
football and the values of Nebraska football. That's what he does on his podcasts.
I don't think it's positive. Like I said, it's like saying, well, if you're in the news, that's good.
Have you listened to a podcast?
Have you seen my mugshot on the news? Because if you have, I'm not proud of it. All right.
Have you listened to a podcast? Because all they're about is the positivity that you can actually, get from reading books, from having an impact on a player, from, being impacted on, from other coaches. Just
so
things that
he's sharing his experience with the outside world. Is that what he's doing?
The outside world and Nebraska. So he has a player interview as well.
He brings on one of his own players or a former player?
One of our own players, yeah.
I just think it just takes away. I just know, and this is just my opinion. I don't know the ins and outs of his schedule. To me, maybe I'm Kirk Ferentz wired in that regard, but to me, there's so many hours. There's only so few hours in the day. I just don't know how. I'm sure he's got a staff working on that, but then I could argue he's got staff members producing a podcast when he should be working on a week-to-week prep.
It's his own thing. It's owned by him. So he pays somebody to put together this, and he shows up for an hour.
So you're saying
if it benefits Nebraska, please go for it.
You're telling me these are not university employees that are producing his podcast. Correct. But he is still the head coach. And when he takes time to produce a podcast, as an example, I'm just using it as an example, that does take away time for scouting, prep, recruiting. It just does.
Okay. Absolutely. But you know what? I am quite sure there's no head coach that spends any amount of time outside of football within the season. Not even an hour of just scrolling through their phone.
And I'm sure.
Is that what you're telling me?
Well, I'm sure Matt Rule fills all his spare time with the podcast. He doesn't do any of that either. Let's move on to baby Mahomes. How is his recovery going? Can we just ask that question real quick, Minnie?
Yeah, I feel bad for him.
Well, I don't know his status. What is his status?
So he had surgery. He had a broken fibula. It is not a weight-bearing bone. He'll be back, but it was a small fracture. So they, had to reinforce that bone, and he's recuperating. I mean, he could be back in as soon as 8 weeks.
8 weeks from like this week, or 8 weeks?
No, from the time that he had the surgery. So he had it the Sunday after he was injured, which is USC was what? Was it October? No, it was November 1st. So
okay, so he's not coming back for a bowl game.
No, he's not.
Okay, so my question is he coming back at all? Will he wear a Nebraska uniform next year?
I think so.
Mark, do you? I don't know. I'm just going by what I hear in the media about his little brother decommitting, and is that a telltale? And now with NIL, like you said, Minnie, like he could go. Let's be honest, Dylan Raiola could pull a Nico Amaleva and just say, "I'm going to go test the waters," even if he has to go down a level because of his ego. I don't know that he has an ego like that, but I think he probably does. But Mark, do you want to comment on that at all?
Well, I can't say I've given it much thought, but it appears as though he is pretty sold out to that program and committed to that program from everything I've seen. Okay. Now, anything can be, we all have a price, but I got to think he's doing pretty well at Nebraska. Nebraska has resources.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad he's, like I say, I'm detached from the Raiola situation. I just knew about why did his little brother decommit, Minnie?
So his little brother, Dayton Raiola, is a Husker fan. The whole family is, and they're a great family. They've all been dedicated to the Huskers. Dayton has always played behind Dylan, okay? And so what that looked like is he really didn't get very much playtime in high school. This was his very first year starting. So he is currently a 3-star quarterback rated. And we have a whole stack. I mean, I was listening to how many quarterbacks you guys have coming up. We have a ton. We have TJ Lateef. We just have a lot of quarterbacks back to back to back that are highly touted quarterbacks. And there just really was no room for him, unfortunately, on the roster. And Matt Rule made a trip out there to Georgia. And I think it was possibly just to have that one-on-one conversation with him, because the following week is when we found out he decommitted, which is heartbreaking, because in this era, you want people that just have that heart, that real heart to want to play. But in reality, he's just too close to being, behind all of our other quarterbacks that he wouldn't have an opportunity to play. It would serve him better to play somewhere else.
So was his offer rescinded?
I don't know.
Okay. Because, I mean, you look at, I'm not saying that, I don't know the circumstances under which he was offered initially, but I mean, I just Googled his recruiting page and he's got like 3 FBS offers and no other Power 4 offers. So I just is curious the dynamic there. Like if it was Dayton's decision, why? If it was Nebraska's decision, does that affect? Like, would the Raiolas all on board with that? Is Dylan Raiola upset that his little brother is? I'm just speculating. I don't know.
I mean, you want the best for them. Their dad's name is on the stadium. His jersey was retired there. His uncle is our offensive line coach. You have to look at it from a business perspective too. Especially in this era of college football, it's not going to behoove him to be sitting on our roster and not playing. He needs to go somewhere where he can get play time.
Yeah. I mean, obviously they've over recruited. I mean, not over recruited. They're able to recruit players at a better level than a Dayton Raiola. I mean, I've not watched his film, but based on recruiting activity, and you banned Conundrum, Mark. I was enjoying hearing his little rips. I don't know what rib shot he took recently, but
there were like two things in particular that weren't necessarily the best.
I don't know who that was, but they've got Psy. You notice that their username has Psy in it. So what does that tell you?
Yeah, I ban someone maybe like once every 2 years, so it takes something there.
Wow.
But we need to respect both people here on the show, and then also respect people that we're discussing, unless we're talking about football. Of course, that's one thing. But yeah, there was a Tom Osborne comment, and then there was another comment about someone else that.
Well, he made a comment that he said, I know nothing about football. And I thought it was hilarious. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I really don't. Now, I want to just make something very clear. I mean, I hope you know I'm not coming after you. I'm not trying to take shots at Nebraska, but Mark set this up. He tried to compare what we were about to offer here with the shows that we have with Levi Stevenson. And if you've ever watched Levi for our Cyhawks shows, yeah, I mean, that's called a mud fight. So we kind of had to try to find some semblance.
It's true. And it's perfectly fine this week. We'll go back to loving each other next week. Hey, I'm a subscriber to your channel.
Well, I appreciate
and
that. To my channel, to Mark's
other
channel.
one too.
Okay, to both of them. Of them. Well, good. I appreciate that. Yeah. No, and I watched your Mark. What did I watch? You and Minnie. Did she have you on her channel?
Originally, that's when Minnie and I met.
Yeah, you guys talked about the book, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
I was very appreciative of her inviting me on her show, and ever since
look at that.
I certainly look at that. Very nice.
I have it handy all the time.
Yes, and so I more so discovered Minnie, but she discovered me first, if that makes any sense. But then I was like, wow, let's get her involved if we possibly can. Absolutely.
No, that was a great promotion. So if people have not seen that, go over to
this is a good book
channel. Yeah,
guys, and I'm not saying this because Mark is here. I mean, you see, I just have it right there on my bookshelf, handy. This is like a $10 book, but it is such a good book for a stocking stuffer or a gift just to give somebody that likes football. It's from the 90s. It's Disputed National Champions, College Football Historical 1990s Reset. Because why, Mark? Why did you write this book?
Well, basically, I believe that almost every national championship season can be disputed in some way. And the 1990s were what I consider most formative in shaping where we currently stand in college football in terms of a championship format, because that's when we transitioned from the poll era that had lasted since 1936 into a BCS era. And then that led to the playoff era. So that was the most decisive era in regards to what's happened. And I also thought that would be a sweet spot in regards to most of our audience, being able to have some nostalgia back to the 1990s. And it's a pretty good decade for Nebraska too. So they're littered throughout that book.
Yeah, especially, I was going to say, it's especially a good book for Nebraska fan. If you're watching this, you're a Nebraska fan, pick it up, because we know that you as a Nebraska fan relish the opportunity to live in the past. So definitely read that book. You can put it under your pillow at night and just dream about Scott Frost.
You think this is what I do?
No, I'm not saying you. I'm just saying in general. So
If
I would
I
just-
may make one minor altercation to that plug, I would say, or addition to it, it would be for all those people that are like, I don't care about the history of college football or the history of anything because that sounds kind of stale and old and outdated. I propel everything into the current format, into both what we just saw, the 4-team college football playoff and then the 12-team, to let people know this is what all these seasons would have looked like and what the playoff seedings would have been under a 12-team format throughout the 1990s.
You know what I like about that, Mark? It's exactly what you do with the top 25 that makes sense. It's the exact same thing. It's like everything. That's why I like being a member of the show, of the Voice of College Football. And that's really what drew me to the channel, is everything that you put out there has an explanation. It's just facts. It's not ever, you don't ever go off of just, this is how I feel about this. So I appreciate it.
I appreciate that. That is just kind of how I'm built. So that's my approach. Not everyone likes that, but that's definitely my take. So let me ask a question of both of you, because many jumped in to say, hey, yeah, we're both 7-4. Let's get after it on Friday. And again, Corey and I have this discussion every year about the Nebraska game, how this ranks, because I was loaded with rivals between Wisconsin and Minnesota. Nebraska has been pulled away from their former rivals in the other conference. And the Big Ten, it made complete sense, said, you two, you're going to play on the final weekend because that makes sense. So to me, it's a rivalry. I enjoy it. I look forward to, and I think it's great that it's been set apart on a Friday. It doesn't get lost amidst all the other games on Saturday, because it's usually, of course, there's going to be another game or two on, but it's going to be the best and most popular game on each year on that Friday. From an Iowa perspective, there's been more on the line usually when they play this final game in terms of a division championship, but that is not the case this year. But are you a playoff or bust person when it comes to, this doesn't really matter, let's move on to the off season, let's look at recruiting and the transfer portal and just kind of get this game over? Or is there a sense of pride and it's a game to be played, let's win?
Who are you talking to, me or Minnie?
I'm talking to both of you. Ladies
Go ahead,
first.
Minnie. Go ahead, Minnie.
Okay. Yeah. If you would have asked me the same exact question in October, I would have said, oh, no, we have to win against Iowa. We have to make it to the playoffs. Like, it's Matt Rule's third year. This is the expectation level. This is what fans are expecting, and we better come through. Now that Dylan Raiola is injured and out, you have to recalibrate. You just can't say, okay, you know what? 8 wins, 7 wins, whatever it is, you just have to be okay with it, because we just have a different play caller. So he's a freshman. He's a great quarterback, but he's just not seasoned enough for Big Ten football. I mean, he's going to have to play his very best game, and everybody else is going to have to play their very best game and pull something out in order for us to win on Friday. It would mean a lot to not have it come down to a freaking, field goal where you guys walk off. We're sick and tired of that.
Well,
because
yeah,
in the past few years, we've been a better team. We've played you better. It's just you play to the very end, and that's what Kirk Ferentz does. Love him or hate him, he'll play to the very end.
Yeah.
You know what I'm going to clear up before Corey takes off on this, because this is very important, because Corey hates when Kirk Ferentz's name is mispronounced. And then Minnie, you can I'm not picking on you, Minnie, because I'm gonna flip this around. No. I'm not picking on you, because I've done it myself, and I've known who the guy has been for 30 years. But Minnie, clear this up for us. How do you pronounce Your starting quarterback's last name.
Riola.
Thank you. Okay.
Riola.
So she's saying
It's tit for tat here, back and forth.
No, is she saying Ferenc just to get back at me for that because I said Rayola?
I'm saying Ferenc because the other thing I do, I'm an interior designer. So yeah, I know. Weird.
What does that got to wait?
Let me
I'm waiting for the
explain.
connection.
Let me
go ahead.
explain. So whenever I'm talking about window treatments, I always say valance, not valance, or people just pronounce that word so weird. So Kirk Ferentz, that just makes sense. Like
It does. Yeah,
I've got an off-season project for you, by the way, Minnie.
Yeah.
It's right here.
Okay, you were asking about how big this game is. So, first of all, I don't mean to make this about Nebraska, but Nebraska has not won 8 games since 2016. So, I believe.
No, we have.
Yes, 2021, 22.
2023. Right?
22.
2022. Yes.
The
Mickey
24/7
Joseph's
game
interim
when
coach.
Padilla played.
No. I said Nebraska has not won 8 games.
Oh,
8.
I thought you
8.
said like this game.
Yeah, no,
meaning-
I know they've won
Okay.
once since 20. That's true. Isn't that ironic? They have not won 8 games since 2016. So the idea that this game would mean very little for Nebraska since they're out of the playoff race, like Nebraska fans ought to be thankful that they've won 7 games prior to the end of the regular season. So I would say that. The other thing I would say is, Thor Williams. Yeah, I said A. I don't know how to pronounce 8. I said A accidentally. So anyways, so the other thing I would say is, as it relates to this game, you're right. It does typically come down to either a last play on offense, special teams, or I can remember at least a play or two in this series in the last 10 years where it's come down to a big sack. Zach Van Valkenburg had a big sack strip, fumble/interception one of the years that won them the game. You've had Keith Duncan sink the Huskers. You've had Drew Stevens do so. And by the way, Drew Stevens hit a game winner on Saturday against Michigan State. This will be his final Big Ten game of his career. So, yeah, there's so many different storylines. The big question I have is how many phantom seats will there be that are filled on Friday at the Memorial Stadium? Because, by the way, I'm gonna be there, so all the fakery and the lies that are fed to the media about the sellout streak, I'm gonna be able to see in person. And I'm going to pan around with my camera.
You were
and
going
be
to
able
the game.
Of course I'm going to the game, Mark.
Okay.
Of course I'm
Yeah.
going to the game.
Good
Anyways,
for you.
so I'm going to be able to expose the lies. If they're there, I'm going to expose them. Just making that very clear.
Do it. Yeah.
So,
you know what?
Yeah.
Here's the thing about Nebraska fans. Okay. We don't settle for mediocrity. We get pissed off. That's the reason that we want a minimum of 8 wins. Okay. Even now. And that's the reason that you're still going to see fans showing up for this team. Come hell or high water, they just back them. I live here in Scottsdale, Arizona. I just went to a watch game or watch party on Saturday night at a bar in Scottsdale. It was packed full of Nebraska fans.
So will
on a Saturday night.
Will Memorial Stadium be full on Friday? That's
You know what? I have no idea. I hope so.
Well, I'm still trying to process we don't tolerate mediocrity line.
Yeah, we don't.
Well, there's
we
that.
don't.
There's that as well. What do you mean you don't tolerate it? You've tolerated it for the last decade.
No,
you haven't even reached.
How long?
Nebraska hadn't even reached mediocrity until last year.
Yeah,
the last year they have.
It's been unacceptable. Let me just tell you.
Okay, well, but last year they finally reached mediocrity.
So
yeah, thank
if
you.
They're mediocre again next year, Minnie. Is Matt Rule going to get fired if they don't?
You know what?
Mediocrity. No, this is his 3rd year,
this
right?
This is his 3rd season. Barring any major tragedy, like our 5-star quarterback breaking his leg, yeah, I'd say he's probably gone. I mean, you have to realize there have been major things happening to this
Well,
program. Anything and everything that could happen has.
so what's interesting is I actually think it does them a disservice in the long run. Nebraska has played, in my opinion, one of the worst schedules you could possibly draw up in the modern Big Ten this year. I mean, they have. They've avoided Indiana, Ohio State, Penn State. Who am I missing?
Well, they played Penn State last week, but not the Penn
I'm sorry,
State
not
we
Penn State.
expected.
Oregon. My bad.
Oregon.
I meant Oregon.
Yeah.
Sorry, excuse me, not Penn State. Oregon. So they've avoided the top 3 teams plus Washington, who you could argue is in the top 6. That's as weak of a schedule as you could draw up. Now, they've taken advantage of it to get to 7 wins. I give them credit for winning a de facto home game against Cincinnati in week 0. Well, that's what it was, Mark. No,
I'm not arguing. I just know that you've said this about 5 times, so I was just, I'm not disagreeing with you.
It was a de facto home game. Okay. Can we agree on that, Minnie? That was a home game. It was not a road game, and it was not a neutral site game. It was a home game. Can we agree on
What was
that?
interesting is I went to that game, and I kid you not, Cincinnati, the team, actually thought that they were going to have more fans coming.
Well,
I hardly saw any fans.
Well, that's my point. And I think it was, hey, kudos to Nebraska for getting that game scheduled, because I think it was dumb on the part of the Cincinnati athletic department to agree to play an Arrowhead as a home game. That makes no sense at all. But regardless, that was a nice little quirk to the schedule. But my point saying it actually, I think, works as a disservice, because if they get to, even if they just remain at 7 wins, get to a bowl game with their chance at 8, there's a good chance they get to 8. The worst they can do is 7-6. So that's not going to get Matt Rule fired. But to Mark's point, next year, it also doesn't inspire a ton of confidence with the weak schedule. So next year, I do think becomes a make or break year, because all of a sudden the schedule gets a lot more difficult. You're not going to be able to just back your way to 6 or 7 wins. Now, I will say this. It's amazing, Mark. More and more it's not just Nebraska. More and more Big Ten teams are doing this. They play nobody in the non-conference, okay, next year. They play nobody. So I don't know why teams continue to do this, other than there must be analytics behind scheduling that
they
are
making the playoff.
Say that again.
They want to make the playoff.
Well, that's my point. That's so apparently we value record more than we do quality of victories.
Mm-hmm.
I will say though, week 1 next year, Minnie, that's a tricky one. Ohio's a really good program. That's a very good program. And hey, North Dakota is an interesting program, as is Bowling Green. They're an interesting program. They tested Minnesota, a year or 2?
You know, I'm gonna say exactly what Kurt Signetti said at Big Ten Media Days. Yes, I got to go there. Thank you, Mark. He said, if Indiana does it, then why don't we? Actually, he said, if the SEC can get away with it, so can Indiana. In other words, yes, we're just going to go and play the easiest cupcakes we can. Why not?
Well, Ohio, I will say Ohio is not the easiest cupcake, but that's a weak schedule. But their Big Ten schedule, Mark, it's a bear. I mean, and you would expect that. You would expect it to be a bear, but at Illinois, at Iowa, Indiana at home, Ohio State at home, at Oregon, Washington at home. I mean, they're playing we don't know what Penn State's going to be, but with the exception being USC, Michigan, and maybe Penn State. Okay, Michigan, sure. But Michigan, I mean, Michigan is maybe I know that they played a weak schedule too in general. Their Big Ten schedule has been fairly weak. Is that fair, Mark?
Yes.
That's a much more difficult schedule next year. So it's just going to be interesting. I think it's really in Matt Rule's best interest to win this Saturday long term, because I just think there's a potential for any program that's kind of in that range of like second to third year, where if a coach brings bad momentum, bad mojo into an off season, there's a potential that could somersault into a season where it's going to be hard to get wins next year.
Yeah. Here's the thing that you don't mention, and I'm surprised you don't. Anytime that you have any kind of turnover in coaching, it makes a big difference in the amount of time then that you need to give a coach to get things back on track. And Nebraska's had 8 coaching changes since last season. 8.
Why?
What?
Why?
Things weren't working out. We went a different direction. When Matt Rule got hired, it was right before the NCAA changed the rules that you could, hey, let's bring all of our, coaches with us and bring all the players that you want with you. And in fact, I take that back. He had been in the NFL, so he wasn't able to have those connections and with players and coaches. So it's taken a while just to get the staff that he even wants. He had to hire a bunch of people that, were his close friends, people that he knew he could rely on to help him build. But ultimately, they weren't the best football coaches. Now I think we have them.
I was tempted to troll with Ohio State's example of bringing in new coaches, Urban Meyer 12-0, Ryan Day 12-0 there for
but the difference is
I know. You don't.
What?
I'm just kidding.
Okay,
kidding.
good.
I understand there's a huge difference there.
Hey, can I ask real quick? Can I ask what happened to Mickey Joseph? I've read he's at Grambling now.
Yeah, I think he's a head coach there.
Yes.
Mark, how did he get that job?
They coached against Ohio State this year. He played against Ohio State, and
that's a pretty big recovery, isn't it? From the way he went out of Nebraska to be able to go find a Division I head coaching job.
Luckily things were cleared.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you mean things were cleared? He was absolved of his.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I did. I lost track of that whole situation after he left as well.
How's your boy Scott Frost doing, Minnie?
My boy.
Of course,
my boy.
Isn't he your boy?
You know what? He no, not this season. The minute that he started talking about Nebraska, you can't do that.
He's talked about Nebraska negatively since he left.
Oh yeah.
Didn't he win a national title at Nebraska?
He did. And for that, I'll always be grateful to him for. But the coaching thing, I didn't even want him to go as a head coach. I wanted to give him another year and let him hire the people he wanted to actually hire. But when he, went down to Central Florida and started talking negatively about anything about the Nebraska coaching job, no.
Well, it's sort of like dating your best friend, right, Mark? Mark, have you ever dated your best friend?
No. I do not have any women friends.
Okay,
that is one of my rules in life. Number one,
if you
I don't look at women as friends.
Okay, well, if you had a really good friend that was a woman, and you decided we're gonna start dating, right?
Yeah.
That's what do you think happens with that, Mark? What's the potential of behind that?
Well, what usually happens, I bet Minnie could speak to this, is that the guy has thoughts in his head that things can progress further, and I can make a move and I'm going to make her like me, and she's always thinking it's friend zone.
Well, no, I'm saying if two consensual parties say, yeah, we're friends and now we want to see if we can be more than friends.
Then it's going to most likely end badly, because usually when there's a breakup, one person doesn't want the breakup and things end badly.
It's exactly what happened with Scott Frost. It's exactly what two best friends tried to date. It didn't work out. And now Scott Frost is bitter. He hates him. He shouldn't hate him because they were really good friends. It's a perfect parallel, Mark.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, that's one of my buddies made that same comparison. He said that something along those lines where Scott Frost is like the ex-girlfriend that got dumped.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he said.
Does that mean you don't bring a coach who has had some kind of legacy in your program to coach your program?
It's just risky.
Well, you said that.
Harbaugh,
That doesn't work. Mark, you're the one who actually said that doesn't work.
Well, I was asked about real life dating. I wasn't asked
about
no.
Earlier this summer, I remember you said bringing back a coach, a player.
I did the historical analysis. Yes, every second tenure of any coach in history has not gone as well as the first stint. Correct. Yes.
Yeah. So
Minnie,
the number
very nice. Remember that.
You're saying that Schiano his second tenure has not went as well as, because he's in a harder league. I don't know that that's totally true. I think he's probably comparable, but
Yeah.
fair enough.
I went to the past because Scott Frost, obviously, going back to UCF, and Rich Rodriguez going back to West Virginia. So I kind of went through my Rolodex up here. Then I fact checked it against the actual numbers online just to make sure I was correct. And yes, I went through like 14 coaches.
Wasn't Herm Edwards? Did Herm Edwards return? Was he?
No.
Did Bill Snyder return?
Yes.
And it didn't go as well.
Still, he was successful. He
helped
moderately successful the second time.
Yeah, that's what he was brought back just to
see, Corey,
a lot of
see all the things
lives.
you would learn if you listen to the voice of college football.
Mark, we need to have more phone conversations, I guess. So he tried calling me earlier today, Minnie, and I told him I didn't have time for him. So isn't that mean? Isn't that mean?
That's really nice.
I don't have time for you, Mark.
See, usually Corey's blaming me for not watching his shows.
That's true. You don't. Every once in a while, you'll hop on.
I do. I have been better this year.
Really? What have you been watching? Football or women's basketball or men's basketball?
Yes, women's basketball. Been checking out those live streams like a madman. Binge watching.
They've been bringing in better numbers than football here of late.
I'm not surprised by that.
But anyways, back to what I was saying. Mickey Joseph, and then I wanted to bring up something else. We can talk about this in the Big Ten show as well, Mark. But I just want to throw it out there. About a month and a half ago, you and I think it was your guy Marty Leap told me there was no way on God's green earth that Terry Smith would ever be considered for the job, and I believe in the last 48 hours it has been confirmed that he's being interviewed for the job.
Oh, he got an interview? Good for him.
Yes, being interviewed and being seriously considered for the job are two different things.
He's won 2 games. He's being interviewed after winning 2 games. Imagine if he had won 4 or 5.
No.
That was my point.
They're doing it because the players want it. They're doing it to appease the players.
He lobbied for himself after that game on Saturday, Mark. You heard that. He was like,
and this is not a knock on him at all. This is just the reality of the situation. You're firing one of the most successful coaches in the country. You're paying $54 million for him to go away. Now, that's been compromised, obviously, by him moving on to a job immediately. But you were taking that risk. You're not replacing him with Terry Smith.
But remember, when we had the conversation initially, it was before Iowa, Penn State. And I simply said, there should be some concern from the Iowa side that Terry Smith feels like I'm debuting for this position. And obviously he does view it that way because he's been lobbying for that for the last few days.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And he may get the job and be phenomenal, but I do not believe that was their intent when they fired James Franklin, to give him a shot.
No, he won't get the job.
And he won't get the job. Yes, they're giving him a courtesy interview.
Now, I will say this: if they beat Rutgers, which is very possible, if they beat Rutgers and then win a bowl game, and then I think we're having a conversation. At least you may not buy that, but I think we're having.
I still don't think it's the hire they're looking for.
No, but is it a hire that could buy you 2 more years? Mark,
they don't look at that.
I was like,
no, that's not.
We're talking about the now. This is what do you feed the fan base now?
Okay, if he's winning 4 straight games to end a year, it was a total disaster. Without your quarterback, your head coach gets fired. If he wins 4, what I'm simply saying is, if they don't feel there's a big enough fish on the market right now as a head coach, and there really are not. That's the problem. There really are not these big names that we think Penn State deserves or they believe they deserve. Then maybe you can buy yourself a year with Terry Smith where he can keep the program steady and just see what he can do in a year until bigger names are available next season. That's what I'm saying.
I'm not discounting what you're saying, but understand that many of the big name hires that we've seen over the last 5 years were not available. They were made available. Somebody went and got them out of their good job, but they were employed.
Yeah. Where's
It'll be interesting.
Yeah, where's the best chance of that happening right now, Mark?
That's a great question.
Can we real quick put
Matt Campbell, Iowa State?
Oh, Matt Campbell.
Can
we? Well, and they've been a disaster. But anyways, can we real quickly plug live show Wednesday If people didn't hear, we've got former Iowa cornerback Adam Shada joining us at Big Grove Brewery in Omaha. So we're going into the danger zone, as they say, into Nebraska territory.
Actually, no, that is not Nebraska territory.
Omaha's not Nebraska territory?
No, I'd say it's split.
Okay, well, that makes me feel a little bit better. I know Council Bluffs, Omaha, there's a good split between the two. But yeah, 5 p.m. Central Time tomorrow, Wednesday, 5 to 6:30 for our live show. And then Mark will be flying in for this next part, Iowa women's basketball watch party, beginning at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, post-game, and some men's basketball after that. But Adam Shada, folks, he was phenomenal. I think he had a 90-yard interception return for a touchdown. What did I read the other day? I was not watching a lot of Iowa football in 2005. I think was when he had that interception. But he was the first really good Iowa cornerback that happened to be white. So, and he's back working in the well, everybody wants to talk about Riley Moss and Cooper DeJean. They've been phenomenal stories. But Adam Shada.
I'm guessing, just going to make a guess here, that some of Iowa's best cornerbacks in, like, let's say the 1940s, the 1950s were white. That's a guess of mine.
This is going from somebody who says to Michigan fans not to bring up the 1930s and 1940s. So, anyways, you're flying in for this, right, Mark?
You bet.
You're flying into Omaha.
When are you sending me my ticket information?
I'll send you a link. How about that? Head out to the Big Grove tomorrow, folks.
All right, Minnie, thank you so much for being here.
You're
welcome. Of course,
welcome.
we want to highlight Minnie's many appearances across several networks. So it starts on Sunday night, everyone. So imagine you've, just filled yourself up with football and food. And then Sunday night, Minnie and Doreen, ladies of college football, you can give them a call Sunday night. That's over on the main channel. And then Minnie on Corn Nation. It's easy to find. It's right here on YouTube, Corn Nation, Nebraska. And of course, this is a great week to do it. Mondays and
Thursday.
I know it's typically Thursday.
No, tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, same as Corey's.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So you're going to do it on Wednesday this week. And then Minnie talks Michigan foot. Minnie has become the resident expert on all teams, I guess, at this point.
Who knew? It's because I watched the Voice of College Football.
You want to host all my shows? I got a Florida State show. I got this show. You and Corey, that would be phenomenal, I'm sure, every week.
Oh, yeah.
And you can do my Florida State show, my Miami show, my Ohio State show on Wednesdays. There's my replacement right there. Bam.
Yeah. No, we treasure you, Mark.
Well, I appreciate it.
Minnie, do you ever wear the mini ears? Do you have a pair?
No, Corey.
You don't?
Please. Next year when you invite me back, though, I will wear them for you, okay?
So you do have some, or you're going to have to buy some?
Oh, well, I'd have to buy some.
Just put it on the Voice of College Football credit card. So,
okay.
All right. I got to take shots at Nebraska people. So if it was John here, I would have figured out a way to take shots at him. So,
hey, thank you so much.
Manny. Good to see you.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye. All right. Good stuff. So I believe that is the first time we've gotten you two to mix it up. So that was this year's version of Iowa, Nebraska.
It's not as natural as me trying to go after Levi.
You got
there. I just say that it's a little bit more uncomfortable for me to take shots at Minnie. She's a little bit nicer than Levi, with all due respect to Levi.
Yeah,
she does not represent the Nebraska norm.
It was great when we sent Minnie to Big Ten Media Days, because one takeaway among many was that she just enjoyed listening to all these coaches, and she just was enamored with what they had to say and their insights into their programs. And she just really took a lot from that, as opposed to being like this Nebraska fan who was going to be critical of all these other coaches. But no, she was very complimentary and took a lot from that. So we appreciate Minnie. All right, sir. We are headed to the Big Ten Live Show. 2 minutes away, folks. So just switch on over to the main channel. It's going to be Corey and I setting you up for this weekend in the Big Ten.